Hi there, thank you so much for clicking the thumbnail and being interested in my work. In this video I share with you my techniques and tips on how I achieve the texture of wool. Be sure to watch it right through to the end because here and there I'll slow things down so we can take a closer look. So let's dive in and take a look. Right, this is where we left it in part 2. Now before I start with the knitted fabric, what I tend to do is actually select a few pencils just to see what colour I can get which is similar to the colour I need, and then see how I can change that by mixing up different shades together. It's always a good idea to get a little piece of scrap pastel mat and try these things out before we start. I tend to do that first and then I crack on with it. Now these are the pencils that suited best. I've added the primary colours there, the red, blue and yellow, also the orange as well, which is a complementary of blue, which helps. Now also in that pattern there's a different colour, so I did the same sort of thing with that before I started, just so I can relax, then I know what pencils to use. So I chose a couple of Caran d'Ache pencils for that. My approach to sort of complicated patterns and textures is just to really get the basic drawing down first and then build it up slowly, big shapes, and then go more and more detailed. The reason for that is that it gets rid of that stress factor because you can be overwhelmed by all that different texture and that. So if you work big and then just slowly but surely build it up, it really does relax you and then you enjoy it more. So it's a case of just mapping it out using your white, trying to find the way through. Just relax, let go of the mind and just focus on how it feels. Feel the energy of the person through the fabric, because that's good to connect to, and just let your hand move where it needs to go. So just moving just little bits of textures here and there, moving things around and then just glazing over the top. Now I tend to use a mirror a lot as well. The reason being is that you can get a little bit sort of fixated with the pattern and you lose the subtleties. So sometimes just stepping back, keep looking in the mirror gives you a fresh approach to it. So I suggest using a mirror. So using the blue and the black together and then going over with grey really helps as well in the black areas there. What I'm doing here is using the grey to subtle it up and just feeling your way through really, and just let go of actually trying to make it look like what you see, but more feel what it feels like, and then the details just take care of themselves then, and then it ends up looking like what you want it to be. But if you try and make it look like what you want it to be, sometimes you can get a bit too tight, and also it can be too detailed in places and it could throw the eye. But to use the feelings rather than thinking, it for me just makes all the difference really. If you're getting value from this video, why not subscribe? It's absolutely free, then you're sure not to miss any of my future videos. Now in the white areas I'll glaze over with a bit of lemon yellow, which actually brings that sort of vibrance to it. It gives it more life. If you just use white, sometimes it can look a little bit flat, so I really suggest adding that little bit of yellow to it, lemon yellow especially. It just gives it that sort of lift that you need. If you would like to support my art by joining Patreon, I am now offering a 4-hour long video and a step-by-step video each month. The link is in the description below to find out more. I would really appreciate the support if you are able to do that. Thank you. Now, drawing in the chain and the cross, I tend to prefer to go in with the white first, get it structurally correct, using white and grey to sculpture the design of the cross. The reason I do it in white is to keep everything clean as well. If I did all the jumper first and then tried to put this on top, it would just be too much. You won't be able to get that whiteness. It'll all go muddy. So I tend to do these sort of things first, to get them drawn out first. Now, if it was an oil painting, I would do that last over what I've done on the jumper, but with it being pastels, there's certain procedure which I prefer to follow. Now, just to get the balance of things, just keep open the heart, and you'll find that the vision opens up when you connect to the heart and you see the whole rather than just focusing on one point. And that will keep a balance then. It's a case of keep going over these things with white and greys and keep glazing. So you're making the mark first with a white or grey pencil and then glaze over then with blue, yellow and red, so you can do the subtleties then, you see. Sometimes you don't need the red. You have to make a judgment if it needs changing. Sometimes you can get away with just going over with a certain colour to get the right shade you want, but you've always got that option of using red, blue and yellow to get the real subtleties, because in effect you can mix any colour you like with these primaries. So if you get a colour which is very close to what you want, you can just change it slightly with the primaries. I'll slow this part down so you can actually see how I've achieved that. It's just going over the white, getting the texture, getting the movement of the flow. If you see these marks as flows and shapes and pattern, try and find a pattern. With this type of jumper, it's very hard to find a pattern because it's just random. So you have to make random marks, sort of adopt a feeling that what it feels like, and just let the flow just happen. The movements will happen, the texture will happen, as long as you don't overthink it. If you overthink it, you'll get stressed out and you get overwhelmed by all this movement and different textures here and there. If you just let go and try and just feel your way through, it will develop. Now, to achieve the gold, I really love the combination of lemon yellow and burnt sienna together. Over the years I've used this and it really makes a nice glow shimmery feel to the gold. Now I'm using the Carandiache white in this instance with the gold. Reason being is that it really is high pigment and it clings to the pastel board as well, so that means when you glaze over the top, the actual mark doesn't move. So I suggest using the Carandiache white. If you're wanting that really intense highlight, just twist a point and it will really stick to the board, and then you can glaze over the top. This part of the jumper, I just used the white again just to get the basic shape in there, and what I'm intending to do is just using the two colours, the blue and the white, and just sculpt your way through, just getting the random shapes and marks in there. What this does, it takes away tension as well, because you're getting something down, because sometimes there's a tendency, if you're not careful, to be overwhelmed by it, and then you don't know where to start. You think, well, where do I start with this? If you do the overall thing first, rough it in big shapes first, and then get smaller and smaller. If you're enjoying this video, please give it a like and share it with your friends. I'd really appreciate that, as it will help the channel to grow. Now when you put your blue down, sometimes it can look a bit intense. So to dull that down, you can actually use the complementary colour, which is the orange. So you can see me using the orange now and again. But when you're using the grey, because obviously that will actually dull it down as well, it's a combination of the two really. But using blue and orange will create natural shadows, but sometimes you can't create that depth to it, so you have to use the black. So using black, blue and orange then, just to make it look more realistic. For longer and more in-depth videos, please join me on Patreon. The link is in the description below. Just to note, the colours I used for the buttons was burnt umber, ultramarine blue, lemon yellow and yellow ochre and white obviously. So just a mixture of those two, and sometimes a bit of burnt sienna. So you just got to play about with these colours. Right, just to recap then, so basically you do big shapes first, then get smaller and smaller, and to get the texture I'm using the grey first and white to get the structure of the movement of the texture of the wool, and then going over then slightly with different colours just to get the right shade, and using that yellow just to give it that little bit of lift if it needs it. Hope you've enjoyed this video. In my channel there's actually part 1 and part 2 if you haven't seen the other parts, so you can see it from the very beginning how I did the outline and then right through to this point now. Here's the finished portrait at the correct angle. Thank you for watching the video right through to the end. If you found value in it and you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. Appreciate it, would help the channel. Leave a comment and a message in the comments below. Let me know what sort of videos you want me to produce. I've actually left a couple of links here for you to click on. And to subscribe, click on the circle here. It's absolutely free, and then you're sure not to miss any of my future videos. Thank you so much, take care and be well.